Moving on, we reach the next line. There is this print, and then we are printing the minimum value of this data array and the maximum value. There is nothing new. We've seen print before, we've seen string formatting before, so here we are using the format method, and then we have here the max value. The max value is equal to data.max, so this is a method from a NumPy array, and here is the minimum value is data.min. It's another method. So as there is nothing new, I'll take the opportunity to discuss a bit some methods. So we've seen data.size. So this is gives the number of elements in this array. We've seen shape, which will give us the shape of this array. So for example, if we would have a stereo, so instead of having just one channel with 48,000 samples, we would have two channels with 48,000. So it could be that our array is 2 by 48,000 or 48,000 by 2, depending on how we organize. So what's important is that we have two channels with 48,000 samples each, and we can see. So let's create an array, and this array will have elements 0 and 1 and 3 and 4. So our an array. Now if you take a look at the size, so it has 4 elements, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but now the shape is a 2 by 2. So we have 2 elements here and 2 elements here. So this is what I mean that we can use shape. And as we've been using, let's create one more array here. So let's put 5, 6, 7. Then we are trying to create an array from reg nested sequence, which is a list or tuples array with different lengths of shapes is deprecated. So we have this problem now, but still we can access the first element of this array is 0, 1, then next it should be the 3, 4, and finally should be 5, 6, and 7. But let's just move back to, so we have the same number of elements, and now an array dot shape. So we have is a 3 by 2. So we have 3, and each one has 2 elements. And now I could, if I want to use the shape, the first, this is a tuple. So it's a tuple, and tuple is an immutable sequence. If no argument is given, the constructor returns an empty tuple. If iterable is specified, the tuple is initialized from iterables items. So it's another data type, an immutable sequence, and we can access elements of this tuple. So 0 would be 3, and 1 would be the 2, because shape is a tuple with 2 elements. And it sometimes is very convenient. You need to perform some operators with rows or columns, and then you can, okay, what's the shape of my array? So with shape you can have this information. Another thing that we've seen is max in our example. So it will return the maximum value of an array. So return the maximum along a given axis. So the array have different axes. In this case here it's 6. So let's put axis 0. Then it's 5 and 6. Axis 1 is 1, 4, and 6, then we don't have another dimension, so it cannot calculate x is to 2. You can refer to numpy argmax for the full documentation. Return the maximum of an array or maximum along an axis. It takes as the parameters an array, the axis is none or int of tuple of ints, axis or axis along which to operate. By default, flattened input is used. So it would flatten if you just use the max like we've been doing here. It's the same thing as it will flatten. So originally our array had 3 by 2, but if we flatten, it will just have 6 elements. And then it will take the max with the flattened one, or you can use some axes. And here you have some examples. So maximum of the flattened array, maximum along the first axis, maximum around the second axis. So this way we can check maximum, and minimum is the equivalent, but instead of giving you the max, it gives you the minimum. Another very interesting one is, let's now use our data, and it's the mean. So the mean calculates an average. So suppose our array now will have 2 elements. It will be 2 and 4. So how we would calculate the average of these elements? So the average of 2 and 4 is 2 plus 4 divided by 2, because we have 2 elements, and this will give us 3. So now if I calculate an array dot mean, I have 3, because it's calculating the average between these numbers. If it would be, so let's put 6, so now it would 2 plus 4 plus 6 divided by 3, so that's the average, and it's 4, and it's 4, and it's the same as if we sum, so it will give us 2 plus 4 plus 6 should be 12, and if we divide the sum by the size, we have 4, which is the sum divided by the number of elements. This is the definition of average. So we've seen that we have many methods that are very useful when we are using NumPy arrays. We have size, we have shape, we have min, max, argmax, and argmin, that instead of giving you which element is the maximum, so in this case here the maximum should be 6, but which, let's change the position, the maximum still would be 6 if we would call here, but the argmax will give you the index. So where is the location of this element? So this is 0, this is 1. If we would move it back here, now it would be 2, 0, 1, and 2. So sometimes you want to know not what is the maximum, but where the maximum is. And we will talk more about this position inside NumPy arrays when we talk about indexing and slicing. That will be soon, as we already have this in our code example. So we have argmax, argminimum, we have a mean, and we have flatten. We also seen about this, and there's a round. You can round these numbers. You can resize, you can reshape, you can squeeze. So there are a lot of things how you can manipulate arrays. You can change the shape of arrays, and we will deal with more methods or attributes when they appear in our examples. So with this, we've seen here data.max and data.min, which was this line of code here.